Welcome to another series of messages on the parables of the Bible. We're studying the parables or the plagues of Egypt. We're talking about miracles are parables in action. Miracles are parables in action. The last class was, we talked about the time element between the plagues from when they started to when they ended. The Mishnah and the Talmud tells us that the plagues lasted 1 full year. The plagues of Egypt lasted a very minimum of 4 months. There's no way they could have happened in less than 4 months. Maybe 9 months, and maybe a full year, as the Mishnah and the Talmud tell us. We talked about the first plague, or miracle. We should not call it a plague because it was not a penal plague. There were 9 penal plagues. There were 11 miracles in all. There were 9 penal plagues trying to lead Israel to God, to show Israel that their God was really the true God of heaven. Not only they were leading Israel to God and to believe in God, but it was condemning Pharaoh and even reaching some of the Egyptian unbelievers, and they became believers of God, of the true God Jehovah. We know that all of the Jews did not leave Egypt. We know that some Egyptians came, and then we know that some people that left Egypt were not believers. But all during this period of time, from 4 months to 9 months maybe, or 12 months, this was a period of grace, a period of God's grace. God gave them time to repent. Marilyn, could you go turn the air conditioner up, please? We talked about the miracles when God tested or pitted himself against the powers of Satan. When he did that, we know that that's when Aaron threw down his rod in Pharaoh's palace. And that rod became not a Nahash, but a Tanin. It became a dragon. The word in Latin is draka. The word in Greek is drakon, where we get our English word dragon from. This dragon that the rod turned into was a fire-breathing, smoke-breathing dragon. This was a supernatural creature. It was not just some creature. It was a leviathan. It was a giant dragon. The word tanin in Hebrew means to smoke, to cause smoke and fire. This dragon was crawling around or walking around or slithering around on Pharaoh's palace. And of course, Pharaoh means the guy that lives in the big house, and that big house, the floor was taken up by this dragon. And then we have 2 individuals that are named in 2 Timothy 3 and 8 by the Apostle Paul. And the Apostle Paul got that information from the book of Jasher, Sefer HaYeshur, the scribe Jasher, and he gives their names, Jannes and Jambres. They were Balaam's sons. And they were magicians in Egypt. The magicians were scribes. They were the ones that wrote. They were the ones that wrote the laws of Egypt. They were the ones that made inscriptions upon the tombs and the walls and the monuments. These scribes were also known for their magic powers, the magic powers of Satan. Jannes and Jambres threw their rods down. Remember now, the rods are a symbol of authority. And go back to recap last week's lesson. The rod of God according to the book of Jasher, another historical. The book of Jasher is not inspired. The book of Jasher is simply a history book. But it tells us a lot about the times in which Moses, Aaron, between Genesis and Exodus, that these people lived. These are written documents of histories of that period of time. Jasher said that the rod that Aaron had, that Moses had been handed down to Noah, or not Noah, but Adam by God. God held this rod in his hand when he created the heavens and the earth. The book of Jasher says the rod is an almond rod, is an almond branch. Now, he made this rod before he ever made the almond tree. But we find out thousands of years later, it went down to Noah, it went down to Abraham, it went down to Isaac, it went down to Jacob, it went down to Joseph. And Joseph died in Egypt. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, which was a Midianite, which is basically cousins to the Jews, Jethro was an advisor to Pharaoh. And he brought the rod home to his home, and he put it out in his garden and stuck it in the ground. It wouldn't come out. No one could pull it out once he put it in the ground. Like it had long roots. This Excalibur sword, or the sword and the stone, this is a legend that comes from Moses' rod, God's rod. Well, he took it down into Egypt. Jethro said the man that rod belongs to, when he comes to the rod, he can pull it out of the ground, and of course Moses pulled it out. And he took that rod down to Egypt with him, which was a emblem of the power of Jehovah Elohim. He threw that rod, which was the power of God, down into Pharaoh's palace, and it became a dragon. This Leviathan, or dragon, was God's Leviathan. When Jannes and Jambres threw their rods down, two against one, their rods became Leviathans, or dragons also. Fire-breathing dragons from the power of Satan. Creative power from Satan. Satan is powerful, that God is more powerful. Now, we know that 1/3 of the angels were carried away by Lucifer, and these are what we call fallen angels and fallen spirits also. They're separate beings. Spirits are unclothed, angels are clothed. Now God, in this contest between Satan and God himself in Egypt, he gives Satan the odds, 2 against 1. And God's rod, God's Leviathan, still devours the two powerful dragons of Satan, the great dragon. God's dragon devoured his dragons. That's how the contest begins. And then we turn water into blood. We talk about the Nile, Noom, the guardian of the river source, and Hopi, the spirit of the Nile, and Osiris, the Nile was his bloodstream. And the Egyptian magicians turned the water into blood also. But God turned all the land, all the waters of the land, all the streams, all the tributaries, all the canals. The word Mitzrayim, or Egypt, means land of red mud and canal banks. Now we're coming to our present lesson in the 8th chapter of the book of Shemot, or Exodus. The name Exodus comes from the Greek Septuagint, exodos. It's like Hantayo in Lakota, the way out. The way out, the road out. In Hebrew, it's Shemot, and these names. So the name that we got for the book of Exodus comes from the Greek Septuagint, not from the Hebrew Bible. Now, in the 8th chapter, verses 1 through 15, now, by the way, I will be reading this from the Hebrew text, not so much Hebrew, but the translation that I have made from that in an interlinear that I did of the whole book of Genesis. And said Jehovah unto Moses, You go unto Pharaoh, the guy in the big house. And you say unto him thusly, He has said, Jehovah, shoot away my people. Now, this is quite a deal here. Now, you miss this in English so much. Shoot away my people. The Hebrew says, it's shaleh, it means like shoot them away like a bow shoots an arrow from the bow. That means send them out quickly. Send them out sharply. Masculine and senior. PL stem, that PL stem is that which shows great force and violence. Shoot my people, et ami. Shoot my people, my ame. My people means my family. My family. This is God's family. This is not His slaves, but His family. Shoot away my people, that they may serve me as servants. Now this word here means servants. And it is third person masculine and plural, kal, jusiv, in meaning. Jusiv means volitational. Those that want to serve me will serve me. Those that wish to serve me will serve me. 8 and verse 2. And if, refusing for you to send them away, behold, I shall strike. I shall be striking. Plural. Not plural, but participle. That means continuous action. I shall be striking all of your boundaries, all of your territories. In Bats Fardiim. Bats Fardiim. That's frogs. Now, a frog, it's batrokois in Greek, batrokois, and it means a scratching sound. It means a tearing sound. It means to leap, and it means to dance. It means to cheep, and it means to whisper, and it means to chirp. And the scratching sounds of the night to whisper. The croak of the dead having been conjured up again. That's what the idea of the frogs are. The frogs. Now the frogs, the gods of the frogs that God is striking at here are Hapi, that's the frog goddess to Egypt. Het, Hek, related to fertility. So we have Hapi and Hekt. These are two gods that they worshipped in Egypt that were frog gods. Now this miracle of blood was duplicated by the Egyptians. And this miracle of frogs was duplicated by the Egyptians. And it occurs in Joseph's where the Israelites lived. Let's go on. And he shall swarm the river, these frogs, and they shall go up and enter into your house and into your bedrooms, and they will get in your beds, and they will be upon your resting places, your couch, and into your house of your slaves, and upon your people, your family, Pharaoh, this is family, and into your fire pots and ovens. They're going to be in your cooking utensils and in your kneading vessels and pots. Now, these people that lived here were very clean people. The Egyptians took a bath every 3 days, and they shaved their complete bodies, so that no vermin, no lice, no filth would be carried into their homes. Now we have these frogs in their beds with them. We have these frogs in their stoves. We have these frogs in all of their cooking utensils of a people that are obsessive, compulsively clean people, very high hygiene order. So now we got a people that are clean that are not clean anymore. And upon you, and upon your family, and in all your slaves, they shall come, these frog people. The frog people. You're going to get sick of Hoppy and Hecht. And the guardian of the Nile is Noom. The spirit of the Nile is Hoppy, and the bloodstream of the Nile, his bloodstream was Osiris. So God is striking all of these. Now, the frogs live in the rivers. But now the frogs are going to go on land. Their river god didn't do them any good. Now they're frog goddesses. And they're all related to fertility because their frogs really do multiply. Jehovah is proving that He is the Lord of the land. These little talkers, chirpers, whistlers, and croakers and cheepers that are conjured up by the voices of their gods and their magicians. I remember when I was a young boy, I would go to some of these revivals by A.A. Allen and these miracle workers, demon casters, Oral Roberts. I would go out there, and they would have people sitting up on the stage, and it was a sideshow. It was like a carnival. It was at the fairgrounds, where it was. Had these big tents. They'd get up there, and they'd get somebody crippling up on a crutch, and they'd get up there, and they'd pull their legs out and make their legs the same length and everything. And people that would be half crazy and screaming and going on, they'd take them, and they would cast these demons at them, and then they'd somehow or other they'd throw a frog out on the floor. And say, there it is, watch it, it's going to get you. People would scream and run and do all kinds of stuff, hysterical things. Now here we have a hysterical event way back yonder. And he said, Jehovah unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch out your hand with your staff, this sign of authority and power, over the river, and over all the tributary streams and canals, and over the reservoirs that bring up the frogs upon the land of Mitzrayim, the land of Egypt. The frogs usually come in after the flood waters recede. But God's making things God order. Remember last week I told you that God uses natural phenomena but magnifies it thousands and thousands and millionfold. Manna was an object that was found in the wilderness. Come from the tamarisk tree. But when the Lord went out there, He took something that they knew and multiplied it by millions. He fed the whole people of Egypt, or Israel that is, with manna. Manna means mah from Hebrew. Manna means what is it? What is it? They didn't know what it was. In Revelation, the 13th chapter, we see miracles like this again, like the 10 plagues of Egypt. There, God is having a contest with the Antichrist and the powers of Satan also in the book of Revelation. Here He's having a contest with all of the gods of Egypt. And He stretched out Aaron his hand upon the waters of Egypt, and she went up, the frogs, these chirpers, and she covered the land of Egypt. And they did thusly. The scribes, the conjurers, Jannes and Jambres, according to 2 Timothy 3 and 8, and the book of Jasher. In the secret arts, they did this by the power of Satan. They brought these frogs upon the land. And they brought up the frogs, the Hatzvadim, upon the land of Egypt. And he called Pharaoh unto Moses and to Aaron, and he said, Beg, I pray you, unto Jehovah. I beg, I entreat you, that he may remove the frogs from me and from my people, my family. And I shall send away the people, and they shall slaughter and sacrifice unto Jehovah. And he said, Moses to Pharaoh, Glorify yourself over me when I shall say, Entreat for you and for your slaves and for your family, to cut off the frogs from you and from your house, only in the river. She shall keep on remaining. The frogs will only keep on remaining in the river. Now I have to change books into the next volume. And he said, for tomorrow. I remember Dr. Martin Canavan preached a sermon one more night with the frogs. Why didn't Pharaoh say, get them out of my house tonight? I don't want to sleep with them, but let me sleep with the frogs one more night? Can you imagine that? He wanted the frogs for one more night. He said, tomorrow. And he said, according to your word, in order for the purpose that you may know that not like Jehovah, our God, there is no one like Jehovah, our God. And they shall have departed the frogs from you, and from your houses, and from your servants, and from your family. Only in the river they shall remain, or they shall keep on remaining. And he went out, Moses and Aaron, from Pharaoh, and he cried, Moses, unto Jehovah. By the way, this is an act of mercy. One more act of mercy. So far, we've had the powers of God against the powers of Satan displayed. We have the water turned into blood. Now we have frogs. And it's just beginning. We have three powerful displays of God's deity and might in Egypt so far. The rod, the water turned to blood, now the frogs. God has overcome the powers of Satan himself in the rod, with Janus and Jambres rods. He's overcome Noom. He's overcome Hapi, Osiris in the river. And he's overcome Hapi and Hecht and Osiris again, and Noom again here. And now, let's go on. And he stretched out Moses and Aaron from Pharaoh unto Jehovah upon the account of the frogs which he had placed Pharaoh. And he did, Jehovah, according to the word of Moses. And they died, the frogs, the chirpers, from the houses and from the courts, the enclosures. This is what we call gated communities. And from the fields, the moist lands, the pasture land. And they were collected, them, in heaps and heaps, omers and omers. And she stank, the land. Now the land stinks. It stinks. The land that they worshipped the land also. And now their gods turn into a stinking cesspool, graveyard of frogs. And he saw Pharaoh that she had become the relief. And he made a strong and heavy heart. He made strong and heavy his heart against God. And not did he listen unto them, just as had spoken Jehovah. And he said, Jehovah unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch out your staff, the rod of God, and strike dust of the earth, and let him become for gnats. Now, in the King James it says lice, so we don't have any lice there. These gnats are very minuscule creatures that bite like fire. And they crawl, and they get in your ears, they get in your eyes, they get in your nose, they get in your clothes, underneath your arms, in your groins, and they bite, and they bite, and they bite in all the land of Egypt. And they did thus, and he stretched out Aaron, his hand, in the power of the staff, and he struck the dust of the earth, and she became gnats in man and in beast. All the dust of the earth, he had become gnats in the land of Egypt. This word gnats is kanim. 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 What? Okay, it's not lice. That's King James. Not lice, it's gnats. And Seb is the earth god in Egypt. Seb is the earth god. Now he overcomes Seb. And this word here is kamim. Kamim. And he did thus the scribes. These are the educated ones. These are the ones with the powers of Satan in their secret dark arts. The powers of Satan to bring forth the gnats, and not they were able. And she became the gnats in mankind and in beasts, in and upon beasts. And they said, the scribes, the engravers, these holy men of the powers of Satan, unto Pharaoh, Estabah, this is the finger of Elohim. The finger, the sign of the finger of God. The forefinger of God. To dip the hand in and measure. This is the hand of a God. And it became hard, the heart of Pharaoh, and not he would listen or obey unto them, just as he had spoken Jehovah. Verse number 16. And he said Jehovah unto Moses, rise up early at the break of day, Baboker, and stand face to face, nose to nose, mouth to mouth, eye to eye with Pharaoh. And behold, he's about to go out to the waters, and you shall have said unto him in this manner, says Jehovah, send away my people, shoot them away, that may be my servants. And each time it says this, it's used in the juicy, and that means by volition. God does not get people to worship him by force, but by volition. But by God shows mercy on us, and we show our gratitude to him by willingness. By willingness. This is volition. Because if you're not, shoot away my people, send away my people. Behold, I'm about to send among you and your servants, your slaves, and your family, and upon your house, the biting insects, the arav. Biting insects, these are dog flies. Now we got the gnats, which are minuscule things, and we got dog flies, which are larger. These are biting. And they shall fall in your houses of the Egyptians, and the flies, and also the ground which they set upon. And I'll separate in that day the land of Goshen, which my people are stopping in, abiding in. And upon her not there's going to be any swarms of these biting dog flies. There will be no dog flies in Goshen. Now there's no fence around Goshen. God said, I won't let those flies go there. In order that you may understand that I am Jehovah in the middle of the land, that I am the God of the land of Egypt also. Your gods just aren't going to fight me. They can't win. Now we have flies. Beelzebub was the god of flies. Tashit was a fly god in Egypt. God now makes a separation between the Egyptians and the Israelites. No more plagues will come upon the Israelites. They're not going to receive these. These are penal plagues. There are 3 sets. 3 sets of 3 penal plagues. 3 times 3 is 9. These are penal plagues. These are shows of mercy of God to these Egyptians and to Pharaoh. This is mercy. Penal. We have penal institutions in America. Well, they used to be penal institutions. Now they're, I guess, vacation homes to some extent. They have television. They have computers. They have doctors. They have lawyers. All of this paid for them by you. But these penal colonies are supposed to correct people and send them back into society where they won't do what they did before. When they had the chain gangs and when they had the people that were working in these hot factories, building furniture, license plates, chopping weeds on the roadside, the road gangs, when they got out of there, I had one cousin one time that was convicted in the state of Arkansas. He was sent on a chain gang. He escaped from that chain gang. He couldn't stand it. He finally escaped and came all the way out here to California where his brother-in-law lived and got a job out here in California. He said, I love Arkansas, but I'll never go back. I'm not going back to any more chain gang. That penal institution taught him a lesson. He didn't go back. Ever did he go back. No more. Now, these first 3 plagues affected the persons in Egypt, the people's bodies, their lifestyle. It turned them into a obsessively clean people into filth in their homes. They scraped themselves. They washed themselves every 3 days and shaved their bodies so no gnats could get on them. And they're covered with gnats. And now they're covered with flies biting them and making festering sores, biting the blood out of them, these dog flies. The word in Greek is kinamuniah. That's where we get the word canine from. These dog flies bite like dogs. God now makes a separation between the Egyptians and the Israelites. No more plagues will come upon the Israelites. The first 3 plagues were penal plagues. All right. Now we have the flies, number 4. And now we're going to affect the property and the wealth of the Egyptians in this number 5 plague. Number 6 miracle, by the way. This is the disease on cattle in the 9th chapter. Let's go back and read the rest from verse 19 onward. And I have placed a deliverance between my people, and that means a breathing space, and between your people, for tomorrow he shall come, the sign this one. And he did, Jehovah, just the same matter, what he said. And he came numerous, massive, unto the house of Pharaoh and the house of his slaves, and in all the land of Egypt. And she kept on being destroyed, the land, by reason of the flies. And he called Pharaoh unto Moses and to Aaron. And he said, and kept on saying, you go, and you sacrifice to your God, El Elohim, and to your Creator in the land. And he said, Moses, not. It is admissible, permitted, or established to do or to perform in this manner for an abomination, verboten, forbidden. The Egyptians, we sacrifice to Jehovah, our God. Behold, we sacrifice, we slaughter forbidden things of the Egyptians before these eyes, and they will stone us. They will stone us. They will keep on stoning us, is what it says. He said, a journey 3 days, let us keep on walking in the wilderness, and we shall slaughter and sacrifice unto Jehovah our God, just as he may say unto us. We're going to listen for his commands. And he said, Pharaoh, I shall send away, shoot away you, and ye may sacrifice and slaughter to Jehovah your God in the wilderness. Only don't leave far away. Don't go very far. And not you shall make a distance to go. You intercede on my behalf. And he said, Moses, behold, I'm about to go out from you, and to beg, and to pray, and to intercede unto Jehovah. And he shall depart the flies from Pharaoh, and from his servants, and from his people, from his family. Only not he did continue, Pharaoh, to deceive, to mock. Don't continue to deceive and mock God. To not send away the people to sacrifice and slaughter to Jehovah. And he went out, Moses, from Pharaoh, and he prayed and interceded unto Jehovah. And he performed Jehovah according to the word of Moses. And he departed the flies from Pharaoh. I mean, this word, it's singular there. He departed. Third person masculine, singular, cal, wow, consecutive, and perfect. They departed like a whole group, like they were one fly. All of them acted as one fly by the command of God. From Pharaoh, from his slaves, and from his family. And not there was left one gnat. And then it says, and he made heavy Pharaoh, his heart, also. In a time, this time also. And not he did send away the people, the family of Jehovah. And he said, Jehovah, in the 9th chapter, and he said, Jehovah, I'm going to strike the property of Pharaoh. I'm going to strike the wealth of Pharaoh. And he said, Jehovah unto Moses, go unto Pharaoh, and you speak, or you will have said unto him, thusly he has said, Jehovah, the God of the Hebrews, those from beyond the river, you send away my family, that they may go and serve me voluntarily, because if refusing you to send away, and you still grasping, seizing unto them, holding on to them, behold, the hand of Jehovah is about to become upon your cattle. I'm going to claim possession of your cattle now, which in the field, and upon the horses, the implements of war, and upon the donkeys, implements of agriculture and commerce and shipping. And this is talking about the mail jacks, the big one. And upon the camels, the Peterbilt trucks, so to speak. The big trucks. The camels were the ones that moved, massive. This is like they used to call the camels the ships of the desert. And upon the large cattle that are used to break up the ground, that's the big oxen and things, and upon the goats and the flocks of sheep, that these are used for clothing, milk, and food and meat. He's going to strike all their commerce now. He's going to strike their distribution animals and their farming animals and their meat animals, their food sources, and and the milk sources and the cheese sources. He said, pestilence heavily exceeding. Now, anthrax is about to strike the land. Anthrax. About to strike the land. A pestilence, dever kavad miod. There's 4 forms of anthrax. You can inhale it. You can get it on your skin. It can be ingested in your intestines, and you can inject it in people through their bloodstreams if they scratch or whatever. It's bacterium bacillus. One medical doctor said every plague triggered the next plague. Every plague triggered the next plague. And he shall depart, Jehovah, from between the cattle of Israel. He's going to make a separation, a breathing space, a interval space between the cattle of Israel and between the cattle of Egypt. And he shall not die from all the sons of Israel, not a single solitary animal from this plague. Now this is a miracle. And he set, Jehovah, an appointed time, saying, tomorrow he shall accomplish, Jehovah, this event, this in the land. This event shall be accomplished tomorrow. Now we got disease on cattle. We got Ptah, the god Ptah, Hathor, Menevis, Ammon. These Egyptian gods associated with bulls and cows. It affects property and the death of their livestock, their commerce, their shipping utensils, their farming utensils, their food supply, their clothing supply. All of this was affected. Psalm 78 and verse 50 talks about this. Now we have this anthrax. In the Greek Septuagint it says thanatos megas, thanatos, a death great, a death great. And did Jehovah, the event, the thing, from tomorrow, and he died all from the cattle of Egypt and from the cattle of the sons of Israel, not he died, he had died even one, Ahad. And he sent Pharaoh, and behold, not was dead from the cattle of Israel, not one. And his heart became heavy, he hardened his heart, Pharaoh, and not he did send away God's family. He would not send away God's family. And he said, Jehovah, unto Moses and unto Aaron. Remember what Moses said? Marilyn, what's Moses mean?
To draw out.
To draw out or to rescue.
Mm-hmm.
And what does Aaron mean? Enlightened one. Yeah, enlightened one. You take the fullness of your hands and soot from the smelting oven and sprinkle it, Moses, unto the heavens, the Hashemayimah, before the eyes of Pharaoh. Now we have Amenhotep insulted. We have Sekhmet, Serapis, Amenhotep, the Egyptian goddess of epidermics, the epidermics, and the Egyptian goddess of healing, Serapis and Amenhotep. Now this affects the physical bodies with ulcers and boils. This is staph infection. This is staph infection. You know that these plagues are still there in Egypt today? Some of this left over. You go down in Egypt and you might get a staph infection where you have boils and ulcers. Pharaoh's magicians could not even appear in court after this. They could not even appear in court. Avabu'oth. Avabu'oth is the word. And let become for dust upon all the land of Egypt. And let it become upon mankind and upon cattle, the large cattle, and for an ulcer and boils breaking out, and boils and blisters, in all the land of Egypt. And they took soot from the smelting ovens, and they stood face to face, nose to nose, eyes to eyes, lips to lips, with Pharaoh. And he sprinkled and tossed and scattered it, Moses, into the heavens, and it became boils, staph infection, very contagious blisters, breaking out in mankind and upon beasts. And not they were able, the engravers, the educated ones, Jannes and Jambres, they couldn't stand before the face of Pharaoh, of Moses. And from the face, the boils became the boil upon the scribes. And in all of the Egyptians, all the Egyptians had staph infection, but Moses and Aaron and none of the children of Israel had these staph infection, these boils and blisters upon them. And he hardened Jehovah. Uh-oh. Here we start now. Uh-oh. There's a difference here now. Now God begins to harden the heart of Pharaoh in the sixth plague and the seventh miracle. 3 and 3, remember? 3 and 3. On the sixth plague, the seventh miracle, now God begins to harden the heart of Pharaoh. Because God, you know, it once said, well, a long time ago, the same sun that softens the wax hardens the clay. Now, God gave 6 penal miracles to Pharaoh before he ever hardened his heart. Pharaoh had 6 chances to repent. And still, these are penal miracles all the way through 9. There's one extra miracle, remember, the miracle of the contest of the powers of Satan and the powers of God in the rod. We're not even counting them. Now we have penal miracles. And he hardened Jehovah the heart of Pharaoh, because he did not listen unto them, just as he had spoken Jehovah unto Moses. And he said Jehovah unto Moses, rise up early in the break of day, and stand before Pharaoh face to face, nose to nose, mouth to mouth, eye to eye. And you shall say unto him, in this manner, he has said Jehovah, Elohi, our God, the God of the Hebrews, shoot away, send away my family, that they may voluntarily serve me. Because at this specific period of time that I am about to send upon all a blow, a strike, or a plague unto your love, unto your loves, unto your heart's desire. This is your heart's desire. Marilyn, do you have a heart's desire? Do you have someone that you really love? You do? This is what God's going to do to Pharaoh. He's going to send a plague upon the loved ones, upon your slaves, and upon your families, in order that you may know there is not a God like me in all of the land of Egypt. Because now I have stretched out my hand, and I have struck and destroyed you and your people, with pestilence, with the edict, with a word. And you have been hidden, destroyed from the land. You're going to be destroyed from the land, Pharaoh. The land that you own, the land that Joseph gave unto Pharaoh, all the land. Pharaoh, in the time of Joseph, confiscated all the land. He owned all the land. But on account of this, I have preserved you. I have raised you up. And I keep on raising you up. In order that, to cause you to see my power, and in order that my purpose to declare my name in all the land. Proverbs 16:4 and Romans 9:17. And you still exalting yourself against my people, my family, to not send them away, to not shoot them away. And behold, I shall reign. I shall reign. I shall be reigning about this time tomorrow. Hail heavy, barad kavad meod. A hail heavy exceedingly, which not it has become or occurred like in Egypt from the day of being founded until the present tense. And now shoot away, send, bring into security and safety your cattle. Now God is going to be merciful one more time. The cattle that are left alive, God is going to tell them, take them in out of the fields, because this hail is going to kill them. Bring in the cattle out of the fields. And all which, here we have mercy, grace again. To you, in your pasture lands, and your fields, and your meadows, the mankind and the beast that are found in the field, and that thing which is gathered in to your house, and it shall come down upon them the hail, and they shall die. They shall have died. And the one fearing the word of Jehovah from the servants of Pharaoh, he made to flee his slaves and his cattle unto their households. Mercy, 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 mercy. We see God of mercy. The God of loving kindness. Mercy, chassid. And he who shall not direct his heart unto the word of Jehovah. And he left his slaves and his cattle in the field. And he said Jehovah unto Moses, stretch out your hand unto the heavens, and it became hail in all the land of Egypt, and upon mankind, and upon beast, and upon every living vegetation of the pasture and the field and the meadows, and in the land of Mitzrayim, land of red mud and canal banks. And stretched out Moses, his staff, his rod, the power of God, the rod of God, unto the heavens. And Jehovah gave, actually Jehovah had given thunder. Thunder to the Hebrews was the voice of God from the heavens. And hail. And she came fire to the earth. And rained Jehovah hail upon the land of Egypt. And became hail and fire incessantly in the middle of the hail, the heavy, exceedingly heavy hail. But it didn't, but not had become like it in all the land of Egypt since she became a nation. And he struck the hail all the land of Egypt, all which in the pastures and the fields and the meadows, from mankind unto the beast, the elephants, the camels, the oxen. These were the bulldozers of the time. All the vegetation of the field he struck, the hail, and all the pastures and fields it broke to pieces. Only in the land of Goshen, which there the sons of Israel, it did not become hail. And Pharaoh sent and called unto Moses and Aaron, and he said unto them, I have sinned, I have missed the mark. Chatati. Chatati. Now this is the word for astokio in Greek, in Romans 3:23. The first part of that, for all have sinned, all have gone astray. That's the word hamartia. And then we have the word astokio there. And that word, we have missed the mark. All of us have missed the mark. And here, Pharaoh said, I've missed the mark. First person construct singular, cal, perfect. I have missed the mark. This time, Jehovah, the righteous one, and I and my family, and the wicked ones. I and my family are the wicked ones. Intercede, supplicate, beg unto Jehovah that it's enough, becoming thunder. Elohim and hail. And I'll send away you, and not you shall continue to remain in the land. And he said unto Moses, my going out of the city, I shall spread my hands unto Jehovah, and the thunders, they shall cease for themselves. Keep on ceasing, and the hail, not it shall keep on becoming still. In order that you may understand that I am Jehovah. Jehovah owns all the earth and all the land of Egypt. And you and your slaves, I have known that. Not yet you fear. You keep on fearing from before Jehovah Elohim. We're going to stop right there. And we're going to start next week, or next class. We've gone to the miracles, the contest between the gods of Egypt, the powers of Satan, and God and the rod. We've had the water turn to blood. We have Num, Hapi, and Osiris defied. We have the frogs, Hapi and Hecht, defied by God. We have the lice. Zeb, the earth god of Egypt, is defied. We have the flies, these dog flies, and Tachit, the fly god of Egypt, and Beelzebub is defied. And now we have the seas on the cattle, Anthrax, Ptah, Hathor, Menavis, and Ammon are defied. These are all Egyptian gods associated with bulls and cows. And then we have the boils. We have the Egyptian goddess of the epidemics, the Sekhmet, and Serapis, and Amenhotep, gods of healing. We have them failed. And now we have Nut, the sky goddess, the Egyptian sky goddess, and Isis and Zeth, the Egyptian agricultural deities, and Shu, the Egyptian god of the atmosphere, are all defied. And the property and the wealth of Pharaoh is being destroyed. There is historical uniqueness and historical accounts of these miracles having occurred. Pharaoh confesses his sin, but later changes his mind again. Now we've gone through 7 plagues and 8 miracles. Miracles are an act, a divine act of God, a parabolic act of God. We have God's displeasure with sin and rebellion in a parabolic form of these miracles. Father, thank you for this time to preach your word. Forgive us where we fail you. Help this word to go out to people. If they're not saved, I pray that they will call upon you, repent of their sins, and ask you to save their souls, believing that Jesus is God in flesh, and that he did die on the cross of Calvary, and that he was put in a grave, and that he stayed in that grave for 3 days, and then he rose again in the resurrection, and that he's arise and living forevermore for us, to intercede for us, to save our souls. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.